Welcome folks to Let's Play Pokemon Crystal. This playthrough is basically a playthrough again with no Pokemon Centers and no Pokemarts, and a follow-up to our previous Pokemon Yellow Let's Play. And the reason I chose Pokemon Crystal was simply as a continuation of choosing the third game in this series, and hopefully that's something that we can continue on with the later gens of Pokemon. Nevertheless, Gen 2 poses a couple little differences between the rules, and I'm just going to explain those in a moment here. And that's the fact that as opposed to Gen 1, where we could avoid a lot of the auto heals, in Gen 2 there's quite a few auto heals that are simply unavoidable. And based on your voting as far as the bonus episode of the Pokemon Yellow run was concerned, you guys decided that the fact that we were just going to accept auto heals as they come, try not to really abuse them to their fullest extent, and just work through things and accept them as just part of the game. It's just something that we're going to have to deal with and work on from there. The second rule, of course, is the fact that we will not be purchasing any items. That means anything that's unnecessary, anything that we do not need to buy, we're not going to be picking up, we're not going to be spending money on it. So we're only going to take items that we can get for free and items that we can find hidden or on the ground somewhere. So those are basically the two main rules: no auto heals, no Pokemon Centers, things like that, and no items. And the third difference between one of the other differences between the gens is the fact that you can't pick up any Pokemon, or you can't deposit a Pokemon in the PC without it fully being healed with HP, PP, and all that good stuff. And so in order to deposit a Pokemon that I'm going to be using again in a battle, it has to be at full HP, it has to be at full PP, all that good stuff, in order for me to take it out or deposit it into the PC. And so we'll get to that when we come to it. But nevertheless, let's get things rolling. So here we go. Are we a boy or a girl? That's another change in this gen. We get to decide our gender, but we're going to go with a boy for now. And the clock really won't matter too much, as in order to get certain parts of this run complete, I will have to work around time constraints anyways, so we don't really care what day of the week it is, what time it is, so that's all just kind of negligible as far as the run is concerned. It's more so an inconvenience to me as far as figuring out what time we need to be at in order to complete an episode. But nevertheless, I will be explaining some of the later parts, some other important information when we get there, as far as different aspects of the run that can make the game a little bit on the easier side. And so we're going to try and work around those things and make it so that it's a little bit more difficult for us anyways. As far as this run is concerned, we're basically trying to make it as difficult as possible for ourselves. But nevertheless, I'll get to that when I come to it. I can't really think of what I'm trying to say at the moment here, but we'll figure it out when we come to it. So one thing that you'll notice first off the bat is you enter your PC, and there is instantly, there's no potion. Come on. There's a potion in Gen 1, I think there's a potion in Gen 3. All the other gens, I think, give you a potion off the start. Gen 2, nope. Not making things easy off the start for us, so you're just going to have to accept it as it comes. And here your mother gives you the Pokegear that gives you access to the phone, later on the map, the radio, all that good stuff. So it's a pretty useful item, and as far as the day of the week is concerned, we don't really care too much, but whatever. We're going to throw Monday on there and say it's daylight savings. Oh shoot. There we go. So yeah, the basis for this run was basically I just wanted to try and complete Gen 2 as well. I know that hopefully you guys have been able to watch the Pokemon Yellow playthrough, which was Gen 1 essentially. But we're going to hopefully move on to Gen 2 here, which is a little bit of a longer game, and I'm going to have to see and work around things to see if it actually all works out. But nevertheless, we're going to do our best, try and get things rolling here. And in order to do that, the first Pokemon that we're going to pick is Cyndaquil. And part of the reason I chose Cyndaquil was simply because Totodile is only really effective if you can teach it certain moves, and some of those moves aren't really accessible to us because we can't buy them. Therefore, I find that Typhlosion, with his higher special stat and his ability to abuse that with fire-type moves, is simply a little bit more effective early in game, and that's precisely what we need him to be. Chikorita, of course, is what Pokemon who's farthest away from the choice we do want to make, and for that case we're simply just gonna leave him out of the picture entirely. So we're gonna grab Cyndaquil here, pick him up, and for those of you from the Zat, we're gonna be following for those of you from the Zat who I asked about nicknaming different Pokemon, you guys are gonna get a chance to have some of you guys highlighted in parts of this run. So Xerxes wanted to be the starter, and so that's what we're going to throw here. So there you go, Xerxes. You are now a Cyndaquil. I didn't check the gender there, so hopefully you were male, but if you're female, that's fine too, hopefully. And we're going to continue on here. But like I said, Cyndaquil is probably the best choice of starter for this run because there's so many different water types here that really, although Totodile is a great Pokemon for story mode in general, Cyndaquil seems to be the best type for this run just because of the different moves he learns and various other factors. So now that we've got our starter, the first thing we want to do is we want to remove his berry because we want to have control over the healing items rather than having our Pokemon abuse them how they want. And that's one of the things that also changed in Gen 2, is that you can now hold on to items, or your Pokemon can now hold items. And since berries activate whenever the Pokemon really chooses to, as far as their HP is concerned, we're going to want to use them when we want to, since it's not necessarily to our advantage to always be healing things when we already have limited resources as it is. So, continuing on here, as I said, I do not want to abuse the auto heals as much as I really could, and so in that sense I do want to use them at least somewhat. And for that case, it's important to get our starter up to a certain level in order to take down the rival consistently. In some testing, I found that beating the rival just at level 5 was a little bit difficult, and oftentimes I would fail and just flat out die if I stayed at level 5. Therefore, to obtain some sort of consistency as far as the run is concerned, I wanted to have Cyndaquil at a decent level while facing the rival, and for that case I will be taking slight advantage of the first auto heal, but nevertheless you do get healed after the first rival fight anyways, so in essence it's not completely it's kind of negligible in the long run of things anyways, as you will see. So I will be also using the speed up button, as you will see here, just so that you guys aren't sitting here all day, especially when I'm entering some of the grinding phases of this game and whatnot. Just continue this plot line so that you guys aren't sitting here for like a 20, 30, whatever 40-minute video at a time. So we're going to try and keep the parts pretty concise. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the fact that although you guys were kind of used to seeing a video every day, I'm going to probably cut back a bit to maybe a video every other day. So that's kind of the schedule we're going to be hoping to aim for as far as this run is concerned. And here we go, we pick up a couple of our first items there, which is 2 additional berries, and that's definitely going to go a long way for us. The reason I'm neglecting to use berries early on is for a reason later on that you will see. And one thing that I need to mention as far as that berry tree is concerned is the fact that as far as berry trees are, they restore every single day, right? And I do not want to really abuse that fact, and for that reason, when I stop to pick up a berry, say at this tree for instance, if I've already picked up a berry from that tree previously in the run, I can't come back to that tree on a later date and pick up an extra item. And that's one of the things that I was mentioning earlier as far as increasing the difficulty, because realistically I could stockpile a bunch of berries and get as many healing items as we want. But for this purpose, we're only going to be allowed to visit a berry tree once and you can't return to it before the end of the run, basically. And so, as I was saying, I need to level up to a certain level just to obtain some sort of consistency while facing the rival. And for that purpose, we're going to be fighting a specific type of Pokemon as well. So, one of the great benefits of playing through Pokemon Crystal is the fact that we get to face Hoppips at level 4, and the fact that they only learn Synthesis at level 5. And so, Because the Hoppips are level 4, the only move they know is Splash, therefore they can't damage us, and therefore we can take full advantage of setting up Leers and manipulating them as best as we basically as much as we want. It's almost like facing Metapods, as I said in the Pokemon Yellow run, but in this case it's level 4 Hoppips. And so 3 Leers gets down to a point where I can 2-hit KO, but really, because there's an auto heal already coming up in just a few moments here, managing PP at this point isn't really too important. It's more so just making sure you survive up until the auto heal, which is why I fight things that can't damage me, and it doesn't really force me to use any sort of healing items prior to the first rival fight, which is something we definitely don't want it to at this point in the game. So the one downside to Hoppip is the fact that it is only like a 10 to 15% encounter rate, so that's one of the reasons I will be using speed up here, simply because it just saves time from you guys constantly seeing me run from Pokemon here. If it gets excessive to the point where I can't really find a Hoppip too quickly, I may make cuts here or there, but you guys will be notified that on screen or something like that if I do make a cut. But hopefully we don't have too much trouble with finding these. I just need to kill about maybe 5 Hoppips before the first rival fight, which isn't too big of a deal. Like I said, there are ways to like extremely abuse the auto heals. As far as the first 2 auto heals are concerned, I found in testing at least, I found multiple ways of really abusing them, and that's one of the reasons why I asked you guys, do you want me to abuse auto heals? Because if I do abuse them, in testing I was able to obtain a level 20 Kalava before fighting the first rival fight, and that's kind of on the ridiculous side and made things really kind of a pushover from that point. Therefore, as far as we're concerned, we're only going to use auto heals kind of minimally, accepting them as we come, as I mentioned at the start of this episode here. Therefore, I'm just going to kill a couple Hoppips, and as if you were playing normally through the game, you'd kind of level up a bit, go to Mr. Pokemon, and then go fight your rival, right? Most people would not fight their rival at level 5 anyways, and so for that purpose we're just going to work through here, fighting a couple Hoppips, using up PP, and then going to the auto heal and fighting a rival from there. So as far as this run is concerned, I'm going to try and restrict myself from talking about later parts of the run as minimally as possible. That way you guys get to see more things firsthand, and I'm not really telling you about things in advance that you don't really need to know. So from this point out, we're just going to basically be fighting a couple more Hoppips. I want to get to at least, I think, level 8 before I take on the rival. That's the level I found to be most consistent to be able to take out the rival without too much trouble, and it basically avoids me from dying to crits and misses and having to restart the run, because even though losing to the rival allows you to progress in the game and your Pokemon get healed anyways, I find that losing to the rival kind of negates the validity of the run. It's like you're losing but you're still continuing on, and that just doesn't meet up with me, because typically if all your Pokemon get knocked out, it's like you go to the Pokemon Center and they get healed, right? It's like blacking out. But that's not the case as far as the first rival fight is concerned. And so to keep up with the consistency of blacking out per se, and technically me having to use the Pokemon Center in that regard, we're going to have to win the first rival fight, and that's basically the reason why I want to be level 8 when I fight him, because if he crits me, if I miss, all sorts of different variables, it basically screws up the consistency of the run, essentially. So we're having quite a bit of trouble as far as finding Hoppips here is concerned. Maybe we can have better luck on this row here. But finally, I do find one. But as I was saying, we want to make sure that we can kill Hoppips till we get to level 8 at least. Here I am, I'm almost 2-hit KOing there. Or almost 1-hit KOing. If I used maybe a couple extra layers, maybe one more, I might be able to 1-hit KO. But nevertheless, we are level 7 now, and I think one more Hoppip, or maybe 2, will get us to level 8, which isn't too bad. So I'm gonna try and speed through here as much as possible so that you guys aren't sitting here all day. But yeah, so just one other thing I wanted to mention about this run is the fact that as we're continuing along here, as far as these episodes are concerned, I'm kind of trying to avoid pre-recording as much as possible. Therefore, feel free to give input as far as if you know about a hidden item that I don't pick up, leave a comment, things like that. If you're a frequent watcher of my videos and you really want to see a Pokemon named after you, provided I have the resources for it, in order to actually still complete the run while catching that Pokemon, I can try and catch that Pokemon for you. Just make sure that it is available in story mode and that I don't need to trade for it or transfer it for another version. Just make sure that it's actually obtainable in Crystal, and if that's the case, maybe I'll name a Pokemon for you. But nevertheless, there are a couple people in the Zat that I did want to make sure that I threw nicknames on there, because they've definitely been a great support as far as this run is concerned, and giving me advice, giving me info, things like that. And so I wanted to throw back a little bit of my appreciation by nicknaming a couple Pokemon after them. So here we go. I think this is our second to last topic. I do want to get to level 8 and a little bit, just to have that little bit of extra experience. Any little bit will actually help me in the long run of things. So that's what we're gonna do, and I should be able to two-shot it with 2 Leers, which I do now, and there I go to get to level 8, and I fight a Hoppip right after. So great thing for you guys, you don't have to sit here hoping I find another Hoppip right away. So there we go, killed the last Hoppip that we need to, and we can move on to the next auto heal, which is great for us. So here, Professor Elm Mr. Pokemon and Professor Oak are going to give us the Pokedex. He's going to talk about this mystery egg thing that he finds, and that's something that we're going to be later talking to Professor Elm about. And whoa, man, that was blabbering on there. I couldn't even get a word out. But anyways, Mr. Pokemon is the first auto heal. As soon as you enter that room, there's nothing really you can say to really avoid the auto heal. He just automatically does it for you, and you have to accept it as it comes. Anyways, Professor Elm calls us and he says there's something wrong at the lab, so we got to go back to our hometown and check it out. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. Just going to travel along here, keep encountering wild fights, which we don't want to do. So here we go, going back to town, and what is this? What is this? There's no trainer here, but what? So apparently this red-headed guy which you saw by the Pokemon lab there, he's in a pretty big hurry, and we're gonna talk to him and see what happens out here. So apparently he wants to fight us, and this is the first fight that I basically was setting up for the fact that I wanted consistency with this fight, and I know I've said consistency like 20 times already, so you guys are probably sick of it. But anyways, we want 1 Leer, and I think 1 Leer gets us enough to the point where we can just tackle outright and KO pretty decisively. Just a couple tackles and we'll be good. Hopefully we don't miss and he doesn't crit us. That kind of defeats the purpose of setting up there all the way to level 8. And he doesn't, and we hit all 3 times, so perfect for us. We get a very clean fight. Totodile dies, and here is already the second auto heal of the game. So within the first 10-15 minutes of the playthrough, we've already encountered the first 2 auto heals, and I believe there are 4 in total, not counting beating the Elite Four and all that stuff, but I kind of consider that a bonus, and I'll get to explaining that later on. But nevertheless, there's our second auto heal, and I'll show you here. So there you go, Cyndaquil's already healed up to full, he's got all his PP back, and he's level 9, which is about basically where we want to be as far as this run is concerned, and we're just going to continue on here. So we got to make our way back to the lab, so I'll just speed up through here. Don't need to really encounter these wild fights, and can't really yeah. Just as you guys will see, speed up probably causes me more more problems, just like last time. And for the sake of just the idea, a lot of people's dealings with as far dealing with Gen 2. Sorry, having a lot of trouble speaking today here. Anyways, a lot of people, as far as Gen 2 was concerned, when they got to naming their rival, because their rival, when they first encountered him, his name was 3 question marks, they kind of got confused, and they were like, okay, well, that's what the guy told me, that's what the guy's name was. And so that's what they figured they had to enter here. And so, just for some hilarity, and the fact that I can't really think of a rival's name right now, that's what we're going to name our rival. 3 question marks, because who doesn't like a 3 question mark name rival? That's just... What is this? I have no idea who my rival is. Anyways, we talked to Professor Elm here, and we explained that Professor Oak talked to us about some mystery egg thing. And so he says he's going to research into it and call us back when he figures out some more stuff about it, and talks about us going on the Pokemon League Challenge, Pokemon Gym Challenge, whatever it is. Nevertheless, just all this plot progression stuff. And now that we've attained a Pokedex, Professor Elm's assistant is going to give us some Pokeballs, and that's one of the differences between Gen 1 and Gen 2, is the fact that in our Pokemon Yellow run, no one was willing to give us any sort of resources, but in Gen 2, you know what, let's give you a potion, let's give you some Pokeballs, let's get you started. And so, even though it says that he gives you 1 Pokeball there, you do get 5, and that's great, because we get a bunch of extra resources that we wouldn't normally have. And so, unlike in Gen 1 where you had to watch the guy catch a Pokemon, this guy here you can just say no, because, you know what, we've already played through Gen 1 without Pokemon Centers and without Marts, so pretty sure we know how to catch Pokemon. So we'll just continue on here and bypass that guy completely. Now, there is a girl on this route that shows up on, I think, on Tuesdays later on, that will give you a pretty helpful item, but for now we're just gonna skip it because we can't talk to her right now, we can't get it, and even though it would be beneficial, at least for this early part of the game, you can't obtain it until after you fight the first gym. And so, just gonna keep going here, working towards our goal here. And now that we are level 9, we are also able to safely take on this first trainer here without too much trouble. He's got a level 2 Pidgey and a level 4, I think, Rattata, and so to deal with that quickly, we're going to Leer once, and I think 1 Leer puts this Pidgey in position where 1 tackle is basically just going to OHKO it, or 1-hit KO for those of you who aren't familiar with the term. The second Pokemon that he's going to send out is a level 4 Rattata, like I said, and for that purpose we're also going to throw 1 Leer on there. And hopefully he uses Tail Whip, which he does, and hopefully he uses that a couple times just to save us from taking additional damage that we don't really want to. And he does use 2 Tail Whips, which is great because we're not going to take damage in this, or damage from this Rattata anyways, and Cyndaquil's going to be able to stay at a relatively high amount of HP, which is fantastic, and something that I'm definitely for in this run, avoiding damage and conserving PP. Something that we always want to be looking out for. Now, that girl down, the girl with the blue hair down there isn't a trainer, so we can just skip her completely. And this girl with the black hair that I'm going to be walking by is a trainer, so we're going to be constantly trying to avoid her, trying to avoid this battle. And now this phone call is really important here, because this phone call is where our mom asks us if we want to save money for her, or if we want her to save some of our money from battles. And in testing, I found that she gives us some pretty beneficial items, and as far as I know, she doesn't actually spend the money that she saves up on the items that she's getting, and for that reason, I don't really consider it us spending money on anything. So even though she says she buys something with our money, she doesn't actually use up any of the money that that she is saving up, in quotes there, since you guys couldn't see it. But for that purpose, I will be allowing her to save money and buying me items, simply for the fact that it's not really us buying the items, it is her just making the decision, and so I will accept those as part of the playthrough and continue on from there. If some of you guys disagree with that, that's your beef, but that's basically how we're going to play through this run, and that's what I've decided. Anyways, we grab a potion here, we grab a bitterberry here, and there's a ton of great items around here that we want to pick up because we want to use them to their fullest extent. And if I do take one step down, that guy is going to fight me, And actually, since we're no, we're not going to catch this one right here. I will be catching a Bellsprout here in a second, but there's a particular reason why I didn't catch that Pokemon, and I will be explaining that later on. Nevertheless, we will be looking for another Bellsprout right here. So, we pick up an extra Pokeball. Hopefully we can find a Bellsprout relatively easily here. And there we go. This one's pretty decent. So we're going to tackle here, hopefully not lose too much HP on it. And with luck, we can catch it on the first Pokeball. If not, it's not too big of an issue for us, but we'll toss a Pokeball. Hopefully we can catch it. Hopefully conserve some resources and move on our way. We got 1, 2, 3. Yes, sweet. So only had to use one Pokeball. Great for us. We didn't have to waste any resources, and we pick up our first Pokemon, which is a Bellsprout. And for a reason I will be explaining in the next part, we're not going to be nicknaming this Bellsprout, simply for the fact that, like I said, I will explain it in the next part. For now, we're going to close off this episode here, just outside of Dark Cave, and that's going to be it for this episode. So we're going to save it here, and hopefully you guys will find out exactly why I don't save that Bellsprout, and just give me some feedback, what you think of the run so far, what you think of how things have gone, and we'll move on from there. Anyways guys, it's been a great episode, and hope to see you guys next time. Peace.